Good evening, people. Welcome back to my channel. I am UndeadSick83, your governor of movie reviews. And since it's Sunday in the evening, it's time to do another movie review. And today I'm going to talk about a childhood icon of mine, which I'm very excited for. So without further ado, let's jump right into this, shall we? I'm having some Coca-Cola because I have to work tomorrow, so no alcohol. But yeah, but I really wanted to do this video because I'm very excited to talk about this film. So again, childhood icon of mine. I'm a big fan of Steven Spielberg. I'm a big fan of George Lucas, and the movie that I'm going to talk with you about today is actually a collaboration between George Lucas and Steven Spielberg. I'm of course talking about Indiana Jones, and today I'm going to review and discuss the first movie in the Indiana Jones series, and that is of course Raiders of the Lost Ark. We're going to talk about Raiders of the Lost Ark. So, this is my DVD right here. This is the back right here. There we go. This is the front. It's so funny. I still have this on. It's still on DVD. I still have this on DVD. I plan on getting the Blu-ray, like the box set, but it's, it's a bit tricky. So, with, it's getting a bit tricky with, customs and stuff, getting stuff delivered from, England or the United States. So I'll have to, I have to figure it out. But for now, this will do. So still, like I said, still the DVD, Raiders of the Lost Ark, but that is some pretty cool poster art right here, right? So, yeah. So there you have it. Raiders of the Lost Ark, the first Indiana Jones movie. This is the childhood icon of mine. I saw this movie for the first time on TV. I think I was 12, and I was blown away by this. This was so fantastic, it's one of those, it really goes back to those old, Saturday afternoon, action adventure serials, like they did back in the 50s and 60s. It's really cool. And I can't wait to dive into this film with you guys. So I made my notes. I've watched the movie, and yeah, let's get started. Alright, so first of all, let's talk a little bit about the story. I don't think we have to, though, in many details, because I think everybody knows what this movie is about. But just as a starting point, let's dive a little bit into the story of Raiders of the Lost Ark. So, Raiders of the Lost Ark is, of course, it's about Indiana Jones. He is an archaeologist. He goes around the world looking for all kinds of artifacts, collecting items to put in the museums. He's a professor. He teaches at school as well. And then basically he gets drawn into a mission by the American government. He is basically approached by these two military, generals, basically. And basically they are asking him to go on a search for the legendary Ark of the Covenant. They want him to find the Ark of the Covenant. And basically what happens is that they got wind that the Nazis are looking for the Ark of the Covenant as well. And since this could be like the equivalent of a very ancient prehistoric, atomic bomb, nuclear device sort of thing, a weapon of mass destruction that the Nazis could do, huge damage with. Indiana Jones is sent on a mission to try and find the Ark of the Covenant before the Nazis do. And that's basically what kicks off the story. It's very simple. It's a very simple plot line, but it's really, really fantastic. So let's dive into this movie. Why do I like this movie so much? All right, so I would like to start with a little background information on why I like this film so much. Because this film was, the concept for this film was born on a beach. It's true. It's true. It's actually true. And it's so funny. Steven Spielberg and George Lucas, they were on vacation in Hawaii together with their families and stuff. They were on vacation on Hawaii, and they were on a beach, and they got to talking, right? They got to talking about movies, right? I mean, Steven Spielberg had just made Jaws, which was, of course, a huge success. George Lucas had just made Star Wars, which was, of course, a gigantic blockbuster movie. So they both had, critical acclaim and financial success with these two movies. And then George Lucas basically asked Steven Spielberg what he was going to do next. And Steven Spielberg basically said, that his dream was that he always wanted to do a James Bond film. He wanted to make a James Bond movie. And George Lucas said, he actually said, I got something better. And it's called Raiders of the Lost Ark. And he had already written the script for this film. I mean, he wrote the script for Raiders of the Lost Ark at the same time that he wrote Star Wars. But he made Star Wars first, which, of course, again, was a huge success. But he already had the script for Raiders of the Lost Ark finished. And he basically said to Steven Spielberg, I got something better, and it's Raiders of the Lost Ark. So Steven Spielberg was very intrigued by this, and George Lucas handed him the script, and they read it together, and Steven Spielberg was a big fan. He was on board. And that's basically what started it. And then they basically started making this film. So it's like a dream project of like best friends, right? It's two people who are best friends and then, go and make a movie together. That's kind of like the mindset that they were in. And I think that, just that whole concept is fantastic, I think. So why do I love this movie so much? Because there is a lot to love about this movie. And the first thing that I want to talk about is characters. Because this movie has fantastic characters. First of all, of course, Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones is one of the best movie characters ever written, I think. He's this very smart and capable archaeologist. He is very smart and capable, but somehow, whenever he gets into fights or when he gets into dangerous situations or something, or like in very dangerous, peculiar, sort of like, situations, right? He always gets, even though he's very smart and capable, he always gets very clumsy and kind of dumb and sort of ridiculous in these sort of like very dangerous situations. In a way, in a way, it's a little bit like comic relief, but really smart comic relief. And I think that's what makes the character so great, is that he's very smart and capable and strong, but in dangerous situations and extreme like fights and stuff like that, he just gets very clumsy and dumb, and it's actually pretty great. It's actually very great. So yeah, great character. And a lot of people might be disappointed with the fact that it's not Tom Selleck, because don't forget, Indiana Jones was originally Indiana Jones was going to be played by Tom Selleck, who is of course very famous from Magnum PI and stuff. So originally Indiana Jones was going to be played by Tom Selleck, but he had problems with like scheduling and contracts, because he had just signed on to do like 4 years of Magnum PI, so he couldn't do it. So they had to find a replacement, and I'm so glad that they found Harrison Ford. I'm so happy they found Harrison Ford, because I can't imagine someone else doing Indiana Jones. I mean, they tried to do it a little bit in Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull with Shia LaBeouf. Horrible movie. Piece of trash. Anyway, but yeah, I'm so glad that they have Harrison Ford, because I can't imagine anyone else doing Indiana Jones. I just can't. He is just great. And George Lucas was very reluctant at first, because he was like, well, I already have him playing Han Solo, but it really works. It really works very well. Then of course we have Marion Ravenwood as the main female character, and Marion Ravenwood is fantastic. She is one of the, she belongs up there with Ellen Ripley and Sarah Connor, and Dana Scully, and she is one of the strongest female characters that I have ever seen in a movie. She is fantastic, and of course she is played by Karen Allen. She's played by Karen Allen from Animal House, of course, and she is great. She does a fantastic job. She's just this very, she is very strong and capable and tough. But she's fragile. She's fragile when she needs to be. She is also vulnerable whenever she's in danger. She can also be vulnerable. So she's a fantastic character. Just this gorgeous but very tough and daring. She is daring, man. I mean, she is daring. I mean, when she is trapped in like inside the airplane, and she just goes to like the gun turret, and she takes the machine gun, and she just like shoots down like 10 Nazis or something. She is daring, man. She is capable, and it's great. And she doesn't seem to be afraid of anything. Which is also a great trait, of course. And also, she is gorgeous as hell. I mean, when she has that white dress on, she is gorgeous. But Marion Ravenwood, fantastic character. Fantastic character. Then of course there is this. Then of course we have our villain, our main villain, who is of course Renee Belloc, who is played by Paul Freeman. And Belloc is a great villain. He is this very sleazy and almost rat-like version of Indiana Jones. He's like he's like a bad version of Indiana Jones. He's like an evil version of Indiana Jones. Just very sleazy and rat-like, and you know, he always trumps Indiana Jones in everything, even though he goes to like very extreme ways, and he's kind of like, you know, backstabbing about it. But he's this great villain, like an evil copy of Indiana Jones, and he's just, it's great. And it's a very smart villain as well. You know, he always seems in control of everything, which is, you know, he almost has a kind of lawyer quality to him, like, you know, which is great because he seems just very smart, you know, and charming. It's a great villain. It's a great villain, and he has this eyes, like these blue eyes, piercing eyes, and he can see right through you. You know, it's really great. It's really great. So, yeah. Let's see. Then of course we have Marcus Brody, who is Indiana Jones's best friend and his colleague, and I always figured Marcus Brody as Indiana Jones's mentor, right? I always thought of Marcus Brody like, you know, he's like the older version of who Indiana Jones used to be, right? Because he even says in this movie that, you know, if he were younger, I can't speak. He actually says in this movie that if he was younger, he would have gone after the Ark himself. So I always thought of like Marcus Brody as a sort of mentor to Indiana Jones, you know, a very smart and capable guy who has just gotten a bit too old for globetrotting, you know. And there is this great scene in the school, in a giant room in school, where Indiana Jones is meeting like the army generals, right? And they are basically talking about the Ark of the Covenant. And every time Indiana Jones is saying something, Marcus Brody just adds something on top of it. Like they both, you know, they are both equals. They are both equals in this matter. You know, they both have equal knowledge on the Ark of the Covenant, and I think that's really great. I think that's fantastic. And so another great character. Then we have Sala, of course, who is one of Indiana Jones's best friend. You know, Egyptian, kind of an Egyptian digger, right? Egyptian worker. Very humorous. You know, he brings some comic relief to the movie, which is great. And then, of course, we have Major Toad, who is the sadistic and menacing Gestapo agent that works for Renee Belloc. And it's very funny, actually, because originally in the script, they were going to make Toad a cyborg-like character. He was going to have, like, you know, biomechanical arms and stuff. That would have been cool to see, but actually I'm kind of glad they didn't do that, because it makes the movie a bit more realistic and a bit more grounded. So yeah, but like I said, the characters in this movie are great. Another thing I like about this movie is the action scenes. I mean, the action scenes are top notch. This is what great action scenes should look like, right? I mean, if you look at modern day action movies, right? The action scenes in action movies today are so annoying and ridiculous, and they are so hard to follow. They are incredibly hard to follow. It's impossible to focus your attention because nowadays in modern day action movies, they have this notion that you have to cut away like every 3 seconds when you're in an action when you're in an action scene, right? Whether it's a car chase or a fist fight or whatever, they have this notion that they have to cut away like every 3 seconds, and that's what makes it exciting. No, it makes it stupid and ridiculous, and it makes it impossible to follow. So, and the action scenes in Raiders of the Lost Ark are top notch. They are fantastic. My favorite action scene from the movie is the scene with the flying wing. The huge, airplane in the airstrip, and where Indiana Jones is fighting like the huge, bulking Hulk-like, Nazi officer, played by Pat Roach, by the way. But there is this great fight scene between Indiana Jones and this huge Nazi guy. And while they are fighting, the plane actually is starting to take off. The engines start rolling, and the airplane starts to turn around to actually take off. And you have the propellers whirling and stuff like that. It gets very dangerous, and it's such a fantastic action scene with Marion Ravenwood shooting all of these Nazis with a machine gun, and it's fantastic. It's a great action scene, and actually they invented that scene while they were shooting. That action scene wasn't in the script. It wasn't in the script. Well, a small section of it was. There was a small section in the script where it was saying okay, we're going to have this airplane and there is going to be some kind of fight. But that's it. So they made that whole scene up. They invented that whole scene while they were shooting on set. They invented that whole action scene without any storyboards and scripts and stuff. They just made it up as they went along. Harrison Ford came up with stuff. Steven Spielberg came up with stuff. Karen Allen came up with stuff, and you have this completely awesome action scene. I mean, that really speaks to great filmmaking. If you can make those kind of scenes work, if you can make that stuff work, that speaks to great filmmaking. It really does. There is another action scene which is really great, and that is a chase scene with a truck, a freight truck. There is a freight truck that's going through the desert, and they have this chase with this freight truck, and it's fantastic. It has Indiana Jones jumping from his horse onto the truck, and then him fighting all of these Nazis, and they are being chased by trucks and motorcycles and stuff. It's great. It's really great. And then Indiana Jones, he actually gets pushed out, and he uses his whip, and then he goes under the truck while it's driving, and then basically hanging back in the back of the truck, and then climbing back on. It's a great action scene. It's great. It's absolutely great, and it's it feels like one of those old car chase scenes from the 70s, right? It really feels like that. So yeah, great. And then there is, of course, the big finale. Then there is the big finale of this film, which is an extravaganza of special effects. The final act of this film is like it's an extravaganza of special effects violence that, I mean, it still looks better than most CGI in present day. I'm not even joking. There is, the special effects in this movie feel more realistic than most of the CGI today. And that's saying a lot. You know, I'm of course, you know, talking about when they open the Ark of the Covenant, and then, you know, the death angels and the lightning and you know, the melting faces and stuff. It looks so good. It looks fantastic, and like it's all done with like practical effects and light effects and just, you know, makeup and stuff like that, and you know, puppetry and that, I mean, that is filmmaking, man. That is classic great filmmaking. That what you need. That's the kind of filmmaking you want from a film like this. All right, so what else? Another thing that I think is really great is the set design. Just the way everything looks in this film. You know, when they go to Cairo in this film, which is actually Tunisia, actually, where they shot Star Wars. It's the same location basically. So when they go to Tunisia, Cairo, right? They have this sort of scene that you see. It's like a wide panning shot of like all of the rooftops, right? But the problem is that there were all these antenna, right? And this movie takes place in the 1930s, so there were no antenna, right? So they basically went to every rooftop and they just took off. They took off all of the antenna, so they would have like this complete, you know, town, you know, completely believable as like the 30s and stuff. It is fantastic. You know, the Well of Souls, right? When they go into the Well of Souls with all of the snakes at the bottom, and, you know, the gigantic, like, you know, Anubis-like statues, right? The statues of Osiris and Anubis and stuff. I mean, that set, man, that set looks great. It looks fantastic. You know, the same with the set of the tomb that Indiana Jones goes into at the start of the film with all of these booby traps. You know, it's full of dust and cobwebs and booby traps, and it feels old and it feels authentic. You know, and just the way that they shot everything, it's just, I mean, the set design in this movie is incredible. It's incredible. Then we have to talk about the music, of course. I mean, John Williams, man. John Williams is a Hollywood maestro. He is a Hollywood maestro, John Williams. He knows how to put together an orchestra, man. The music in this film is fantastic. You know, there are so many sound bites in this film. It's fantastic. You know, the scene where Indiana Jones goes into like the map room to find out the location of the Ark, where the Ark is buried, right? And he has his staff with the ruby on top, right? The medallion. But the scene where he goes into that map room and you have this music, and it's very slow and melancholy, and it's almost haunting. The music is almost haunting in this film, in that scene anyway. The music is almost haunting in that scene. It's like it has a foreboding tune to it. It's very magical, but it also has a foreboding tune to it. It's like, it's enticing you. It's enticing you to find the Ark of the Covenant, but on the other hand, it's warning you, right? It's warning you, like, if you find this Ark, be very careful with it. So, I mean, that whole theme is fantastic. Marion's theme, the love theme, is fantastic. It's very soft and almost like romantic there, which is great. And then, of course, you have the main theme of this movie. The main theme. Everybody knows the main theme of this film. And the funny thing is that originally there were two versions of this main theme. There were two versions of the main theme, because when John Williams was making the music, he was with Steven Spielberg, and he basically had two versions, right? And he would play the first one for Steven Spielberg, which he really liked, which was very, bombastic and energetic and very upbeat and sort of happy. And then there was this other version, which was really good as well, but it was more calmed down and a bit more slow, and basically what happens is that they ended up using both. They ended up using both themes in the same theme. They had like the first one is the main theme, and then they used the second theme as like the bridge between, sections, right? So you had the main theme, then you have the bridge, and then you have the main theme again. So, that's just one of those examples of, great collaboration between all of these filmmakers, right? It just speaks to the magical. It just speaks to the magic of filmmaking to me. And I think, to be honest, I think those kind of things have kind of gotten lost in the last 20 years, probably. It's, filmmaking like this is a lost art. I think it's a lost art. I really think so. And I think it's a shame because, I think we need to bring this kind of filmmaking back. I really think we need to bring this kind of filmmaking back. This just feels more magical than most of the movies we have today. So, but that's just me. So, I think I talked about this movie enough. In closing, how do I feel about this movie, Raiders of the Lost Ark? How do I feel about this movie? This movie is an absolute blast. This movie is a blast. It's so much fun, and it looks stunning, and it's exciting, and it's so, this movie is so full with, it's so filled with, stunts and gags and set pieces and action and special effects and just great filmmaking. Oh, by the way, speaking about the gags, I mean, the monkey that goes Heil Hitler, the monkey that does the Hitler salute, right? I mean, that's like, that cracks me up every time. But yeah, this movie is so much fun and exciting, and it looks stunning. it's so full with like stunts and gags and set pieces and action and special effects. It's just it's a blast. It's a blast, and it's so much fun to watch. I can watch this movie over and over and over again, and it never gets bored. It never gets boring. I never get bored with this film. I can watch this over and over and over again. So I think that really speaks to the quality of the film. And yeah, I mean, I think it's a great film. I absolutely love it. I think it's fantastic. If I have to give it one negative, I think that the only downside of this film would be that it might be a little dated. The movie might be a little dated. I mean, in some areas you can clearly see that, it had trouble with, it had trouble with sustaining like the test of time. So in a way, the movie might feel a little dated for some people. It might be a little dated. So if I have to give it a negative, that's the only downside that I would give it, really. But apart from that, I think this is a pretty much perfect movie, and I never say that about any movie. There are only a handful of movies that I personally deem perfect. There are only a handful of movies that I think are actually perfect, and I think Raiders of the Lost Ark is one of them. So again, fantastic film. I absolutely love it. And you know what? If you are a movie fan like me, or if you are a movie collector, you have to watch this. Every movie fan or collector has to watch this at least once. And if you are really a true movie collector, you have to have this in your collection. You have to have this in your collection. I mean, come on. This is a classic, people. This is an instant classic. And it should be in every collector's, catalog. So, Raiders of the Lost Ark, watch it, check it out, and go out and buy it. Because this is a fantastic film. I absolutely love it. So, in terms of my rating for this film, it's a very easy one. I'm going to give Raiders of the Lost Ark, I'm going to give Steven Spielberg's Raiders of the Lost Ark a 9 out of 10. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. It's a damn near perfect film. I love it. I love it to death. Everybody has to watch it. And if you are a collector, why do you not have it yet? Why do you not have this in your collection? Stop watching the video. Go out to the shops and buy Raiders of the Lost Ark, because it deserves to be acknowledged, and it deserves to be in your collection. So there you have it. Again, Raiders of the Lost Ark by Steven Spielberg, 9 out of 10 for me. But anyway, let me know in the comment section down below, what did you think? Have you watched Raiders of the Lost Ark, or do you own Raiders of the Lost Ark? If you own it, if you have seen it, do you love it as much as me, or do you hate it? If you do hate it, tell me why. We can discuss and debate. Do you agree with my points? Do you disagree? Again, if you disagree, tell me why. We can discuss and debate. Do you have any TV shows or movies that you want to recommend to me for me to watch and review and discuss? Let me know in the comment section down below. I want to know your thoughts, opinions, theories, ideas, as always. Anyway, thank you for watching. I'll be back with another video as soon as possible, of course. Stay safe and healthy as always. Have a good week. And I see you guys. Bye.